This is one of my favorite mushrooms that we grow here at Little Acre. This is the gold oyster mushroom, or Pleurotus citrinopiliatus. Okay, and this is actually a tropical oyster mushroom alongside the pink oyster mushroom. So the really bright colors here, the gold and the pink, that's a tropical mushroom. But a joy of this one is actually it can be grown at a nice cold temperature as well. So around the 17 to 18 degree mark, we find actually gives you the best looking fruits, the most densely packed fruits. Okay, so it can be grown all the way up to 35 degrees though. So it's definitely a tropical mushroom for everyone up in the north to give this guy a go, but also it can be grown slightly cool. This mushroom is a real treat to grow because you're never going to find it in a store. The reason is it's actually a really, really fragile mushroom. So once we break this bunch off, if you smack this around a little bit, you're immediately going to start cracking all the petals on these mushrooms. So it looks amazing here, and you've got to really use some delicate hands to pick it off for a display, for instance. But if you can grow it at home, it's amazing, okay? It's got a fantastic cashew flavor, okay? What I like to do is fry it up in a frying pan until it's really, really crispy. And then if you put that onto pasta, it's just like a nutty taste. It has that really, really beautiful nutty taste. And it's really fantastic when you get it really crispy and crunchy. So something that's a bit different about this oyster mushroom compared to other oyster mushrooms is the way it grows. So you can see that it actually, on this bag in particular, it's actually forming a little nodule. So the fruits of this mushroom actually form from little nodules, not like you'll see on other mushrooms like the pink oyster or your white oyster, where it actually grows a lot of little primordia on the surface. On this guy here, this actually forms a nodule, and then from that nodule, a bunch of oyster mushrooms form. And you can see on the bucket here, bunches of oyster mushrooms forming out through the holes. So it is a great mushroom to be able to grow in buckets as well as bags. And if you're growing it in the bag, you want to use the X method just alongside every other oyster that we grow here. That way it keeps that humidity trapped in that microclimate, but you're not going to get the big primordia pin set across the surface of your bag like you do with the other oysters. You'll wait a little bit, like maybe up to a week, and not much will be going on, and then all of a sudden little nodules will form, little gold nodules, and they'll burst into big nice bunches of gold oyster. So it's a fantastic mushroom to grow. It's a real showstopper, definitely, if you're going to do a market and sell something like this. Now, it can be grown just on sugarcane or straw, but we've actually found that you actually get really beautiful fruits, more so if you grow it on hardwood timber. Okay, so we found that if you grow it on sugarcane or straw, your fruits are actually going to be a bit lighter. They're actually going to be a bit more flimsier and a bit more fragile. The wood is actually causing it to be a bit more dense. Okay, so we find that growing this guy on hardwood sawdust or hardwood wood pellets is the way forward. Now, you've got this amazing gold color, and they start off, you can see on the side here, they start a light color and form these great big gold bunches. Now, there is a little trick to why these are really, really gold, and it's because we're growing these under light. So light does affect this mushroom in terms of how much color it's going to produce. If you grew this guy in the dark, you're going to get extremely pale mushrooms. It's not even worth growing them, okay, for their color if you're going to do that. So these guys are grown under LED lighting here at Little Acre, and our lights for these guys are actually on 24/7, okay? So it's actually a bit of a myth that mushrooms want to grow in the dark. This guy loves the light, and it gives that really bright gold color, okay? So if you have a look at the front of this bucket here, what we've actually got going on here, you can actually see some little white flecks that are forming, and this is nothing to be alarmed about. What that is the veil remnants of, as the oyster mushroom is growing out, the veil that's covering the mushroom is actually falling away, and it's actually causing these little bits of white fleck to form on top of your gold oyster mushroom. So it's absolutely completely normal, and do not worry if that's occurring, okay? So the oyster mushroom here, it's a fantastic mushroom to grow. Really highly recommend it. A fantastic cashew nutty flavor. It's probably one of the nuttiest mushrooms that you could probably grow, and it's just got an amazing color. So there's a little bit of a trick to picking this guy. Now, some of the other oyster mushrooms that we grow, you can just get your hands and just pull it off straight off the block. But we find that you really want to cut this guy off the block. And the reason is because of that nodule where it was forming out, it's actually got a really, really strong stem attached to the block. So if we try and pick one of these off now, we'll go over here to this mushroom. You can see it's got a really strong base here. Okay, so you want to get, and you can see all these little primordia here. These are never going to grow into a mushroom. All of the energy's been put into this mushroom up here. So you want to get your knife under there. And I can actually see that there's a bit of a part here that I can just get into. And I can just pull that one away. So there's a little bunch there. Okay, so you want to be really careful, because if I drop that right now, the caps would crack. And because we're selling this to our customers, we want to make sure they're the best looking mushrooms we can provide. Okay, but if we go back to here, put a knife in there, and we can pull away another bunch of mushrooms there. So you can see this guy here, the caps are really upturned. Okay, alongside the pink oyster mushroom, it's actually really hard to get this guy to stop upturning its caps, but this is perfect picking. Okay, so if you left it any longer, they're just going to get really like trumpet looking, and they're going to be just releasing their spores a lot. So you want to pick them just like that, and you've got that stem there. So when you're cooking them, this is actually really chewy, so you want to cut off those petals just off the stem there and fry those guys up in a frying pan, and you're going to get an amazing dish out of that. But as you can see from this block here, we pull those mushrooms away. You would want to pull all of this bunch off here, so we might as well get into that there. Take that off there. And what you've been left with, got a little bit of bunch there, is really hard stem stuck to this block here. You want to try and pull a bit of this away so that another bunch of gold oysters are going to form. And you can actually see here, the nodules here are forming for another bunch. Okay. Now, gold oysters, they just keep flushing and flushing and flushing. When you think they've stopped, they're going to go again. So they're an amazing mushroom, and you will feel the weight of your bag all the way to your bucket getting lighter and lighter as they're forming those mushroom bunches, because they're using up all of the moisture inside the block. So to keep them hydrated, you want to soak the bag or soak the bucket to be able to keep forming mushrooms. But before you do that, you should be able to get 2 or 3 clusters of mushrooms coming out of whatever you're using straight up. Okay, so gold oyster mushroom, amazing nutty taste. Try and grow them on wood pellets or hardwood sawdust. If you can control your climate, try and knock it down to around that 20-degree mark or just slightly under it, and you're going to form really nice dense clusters. Okay, additionally, give it some light. Don't grow these guys in the dark. You're not going to get the really bright gold. You want to grow them in the light, but don't grow them in direct sunlight. Direct sunlight is going to dry out those mushrooms, okay? Because you want to provide the humidity still. So high humidity, wood pellets, and light, you're going to get some amazing gold oysters, and I can't wait for you all to try these.